We've gotten some new subscribers recently, which I really do appreciate. And I did want to say that those of you who are new might not know this. Those of you who have followed this channel probably do. But one of the original ways this channel ever caught traction was Batman, coverage of Batman Arkham, the movies, things like that. Something I still do to this day and immensely enjoy. And the Batman itself, the film, not the cartoon, which is also excellent, but the film itself was one of my favorite movies in years when it came out. I mean, to the point where I was loving this movie. I even went and reviewed the Batman calzone from Little Caesars, which, side note, they need to bring back. That thing was delicious. So you might know or guess that I'm a little disappointed at how long it's taken for the Batman Part 2 to get underway, for this movie to actually be made. And so is Robert Pattinson, and so are other people surrounding the film itself. And I wanted to take a look today for a few minutes at why it has taken so long for this film to get off the ground, and a couple of the things that have been revealed along the way as to what is actually happening. If you enjoy this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, I appreciate that very much. I have a question of the day, which is, what do you want to see in the Batman Part 2? Now, we're probably far enough along in a script writing process that our comments won't affect it, but I'm interested to see your thoughts. What you want to see for a villain, what kind of direction you want to see tackled, especially after the Penguin. Let me know. And I did want to say very briefly, we have a Fortnite code. I'll flash it during the video. DC stuff is coming back to that, so if you want to support the channel, that is a great way to do so. We have our own store, Cosmo Bunny Shop, I'll mention at the end, and we have an Amazon affiliate link with all kinds of DC products on it, where if you follow that, buy something, we do make a commission. Those things go to help support the channel. YouTube's been really rough, so that helps us out a lot, and thank you to those of you who have done so. Now, I think it's worth mentioning that the Batman originally came out in around 2022. We're talking kind of near the tail end of the COVID panic and the pandemic issues that were going on, and because of that, there was obviously going to be some kind of cap on how well the film did, right? I mean, there were a lot of people who were scared to go outside. Even to this day, even after the news has stopped covering this whole thing pretty much entirely, there are still people who are nervous. Some because they have immune system issues, some just because the news was ramping on this every day. Essentially, there was this cap, there was this ceiling on how well a movie like this could do during that time. And even regardless of that, the movie still did very well. But this movie came out portraying a young Bruce Wayne. It was essentially a Batman who was younger, who was starting out. He had already been Batman for a little while, but not super long, and it was earlier on in his career, which is something that Robert Pattinson did actually mention recently. Now, Robert Pattinson was recently interviewed by Hero magazine, actually talking about how he believed he might be too old to be Batman by the time they go back to doing these movies. And if you want to see the sources to this, I will put them in the sources section of the description down below. That's where I usually put these things if you want to read them yourselves. Basically talking about it, he said, to the question, are you going to do Batman again soon? He said, I effing hope so. I started out as a young Batman, and I'm going to be effing old Batman by the sequel. Going on to say, you know, I'm 38, I'm old. Now, I don't think Robert Pattinson is at all old, and to be honest, the dude could pass for pretty much a 30-year-old. I mean, he has a young face, he takes good care of himself, he has the money to do so, and good for him. I'm sure if the rest of us were making the kind of money he makes from film work, we'd probably be taking better care of ourselves too. And he did kind of share this a little bit, saying, I'm old, but I'm healthier. I think I've actually brought my biological age down a bit, and saying, if I'm doing a job, I can't ever eat anything, even seasoning. I can't have pepper. I ate nothing but salmon and avocado for like 5 months, and it actually made my memory better. So again, you know, it's worth noting that while I would not do this, he is someone who takes very good care of his body, and he goes on pretty strict diets in order to be able to do these different roles. And because of that, he's someone who does look young, and he is someone who got very into the role. But that said, it is still something where this movie is pushed back to basically late, it's basically late 2027 at this point. And so the question does arise, well, why the hell did this happen? You know, why was this delayed? What happened here? Now, James Gunn himself, who is pretty much in charge of the film division of DC, did answer this, talking about the script delay, but I do believe that there is more beyond what he said. Now, that doesn't mean he's a liar. We'll take a look at his comments. It just means that in the film industry, there's going to be a lot more than the surface level answer, no matter where you get it from. There's going to be layers of bureaucracy and behind the scenes activities that just affect any project. Now, that said, James Gunn, regarding the delay, said essentially 2 months ago, sure, yes, it is true, the only reason for the delay is there isn't a full script. Those of you who follow me here probably know that already. Matt, so this is Matt Reeves, is committed to making the best film he possibly can, and no one can accurately guess how long a script will take to write. Once there is a finished script, there is around 2 years for pre-production, shooting, and post-production on big films. You have to remember these things are very, very, very long processes to make. And this isn't the only time this has happened. We've talked before about James Bond and some of the issues that have plagued that franchise, another one I really love making videos on. And there's not only behind the scenes drama with something like that, but also the script writing process, the casting process, the process of getting everyone on board with the same thing. Movie making is a time-sensitive but frustrating process. Now, that said, it is going to end up being half of a decade between Batman films. It's going to essentially be over 5 years between these two movies coming out. And what sucks about that is that a lot of the reason people liked the original Batman film here is because it was tackling this younger Batman early on in his career, establishing himself, and meeting one of his main villains for the first time. Now, if you have to wait 5 years for that every time in between, there's only going to be a limited amount that you can cover. There is also a frustration around this Batman, as many have wanted Robert Pattinson to be the DCU Batman, the new DC universe of film, because he was just that good, with essentially the consensus from Gunn and others being, well, that's not going to happen no matter what, because Reeves signed up to do his own universe, we're not going to force that on him. But at the same time, there still has not been, at the time of recording this, in early or mid-March of 2025, a casting of the Batman character for the DC universe. There is no actual casting picked. Now, does this mean that they should rush things to just get them done and make them bad? Absolutely not. But even though this is a sensitive process, it's something that your audience does get frustrated waiting for. Now, there is more regarding the Batman Part 2 that seems to be affecting the production. This part is just reports from different sources, whether it be hearsay or studio sources or things like that, so you can take it with a grain of salt, but I still find it fascinating. When you look at some of the things going on, it's important to remember that there was going to be a Joker scene in the original first The Batman, and it was essentially going to be this Hannibal Lecter style scene where Batman was visiting Joker before he's actually the Joker, and he's this criminal mastermind, he's this crazy guy who Batman goes to get information and see inside of the mind of characters like this. I personally liked this dynamic. Yes, it is very Silence of the Lambs coded, if you will, but I thought it was interesting. That said, the response to that Joker was extremely divisive. People didn't like the way he looked, some people didn't like this dynamic, some people hated introducing the Joker right away. Essentially, this ended up being cut, and later on when it was released, it was a very, very divisive response. And on top of that, the man who plays him was caught up in a huge scandal, at least in Hollywood, regarding potentially cheating on his partner and all this other stuff. Now, does that part matter? No, but you now have a character that was supposedly going to be introduced in the original film to the point where they fully shot, edited, did this entire sequence with him, the makeup and all, and then he got cut, which leads me and many to believe that he would be introduced in the second. And now you have the actor getting into controversies. You also have the character being met divisively. The character's inclusion in the original movie essentially being non-canon, I believe, because it's never shown. So unless they go back and say, no, he did visit him, that didn't happen. You have like this entire dynamic that had to be thrown out. And you have to ask the question of, do we bring that character back in the same way? Do we wait to bring him back? With no full script, you obviously know that he's not guaranteed to come back. And that's something that Robert Pattinson actually addressed recently, essentially saying potentially to the idea of Joker returning, but honestly, really saying he doesn't know. He doesn't know what's going on. And the actor himself, I always say his name wrong, but I believe it's Barry Cohen. I never know if it's Cohen or Keegan. You can tell me in the comments down below. But he himself said that he had not been contacted regarding returning yet. He'd love to explore the character given the opportunity and dive into it, but he had not been contacted or heard anything. And that was just recently. That was actually back in November of 2024. So you not only don't have a full script, you have a character that was written out of the original movie with the actor not even having been contacted yet as of 5 months ago, and Robert Pattinson himself kind of on ice, wondering, well, am I going to be too old? But then we also get to Clayface. Clayface is a very, very weird part of this story, and a piece I would love clarification on from James Gunn, because I do believe that he has been fairly forthcoming with information. I believe that when asked questions that he can answer, he's pretty much answered them. And that is one thing I do like about this era of DC, more than the last one, is the level of corporate oversight, especially during the waning years of the DCEU, after they pushed Snyder out, was no one was willing to answer anything, everything was always leaks, everything was always unconfirmed, and we never knew. So when talking about the Clayface portion, that's not really the dynamic I want to bring back as someone who enjoys this universe, the Batman universe. But there is a lot of speculation that Clayface himself was potentially going to be in the Matt Reeves Batman universe before they decided on making him DC Universe. Now, Clayface is getting his own DC Universe film, but basically the speculation is that he was originally going to be part of, in some way, the Batman universe. What I've been having a hard time finding is where this speculation came from, because this is something that is rampant. And when I say rampant, I mean viral levels of rampant. But I can't really find a source for where this came from. Is it just some guy said, source, trust me, and it got picked up by fans? I don't really know, but it is something that people have talked about ad nauseum. Now that said, the movie for the DC universe of Clayface is described as a Hollywood horror tale centering on a B-movie actor who injects himself with a substance to keep himself relevant, only to find out that he can reshape his face and form, becoming a walking piece of clay. Now, this sounds like it's going to be a very sad movie, especially if you take something like the way Batman the Animated Series told this story and you put it in live action. I don't really know, for me, how interested I am in a DC Universe Clayface film. What becomes interesting about this essentially is I see a lot of people mention different trades, talking about, oh, well, Clayface was going to be this villain for the Batman Part 2. I even saw a lot of people reporting from the Batman on Film website, which I think has done a good job reporting on a lot of different things over the years, gotten a lot of information, etc. That said, I can't really find where the original source would have come from on this. Like this idea essentially that it's going to be this character. So, because of that, we now know it's a DC Universe character. I'm not saying at one point there was a script and it got scrapped and it was Clayface and all this stuff, but with all these different rumors floating around about it and no script nailed down, at least at that point, it does make me wonder if there were just a lot of ideas thrown around on where to take this universe. You know, you had the Batman and you had Penguin, but it seems to me like they couldn't nail down like what villain to go with, what direction to go, all these different things. And I really do think that's the biggest reason why this is taking so long. But again, that element of Clayface originally being the film's antagonist, while it was reported by Batman on Film like as an idea, and I've seen lots of different people talk about it, I do want people to know that that's something I would take with a grain of salt. Not because they're not a reliable source, but because I feel like a lot of people took what they said and ran with it as fact, instead of just taking this speculation that was based off of different rumors and different things and taking it as what it was. So I'm interested to see what you think about this. Do you think that this is too long between sequels, essentially 5 years plus or around 5 years? What do you think about this character? Do you think we're only going to get 3 films because of this? Do you think there will be another spin-off kind of like Penguin? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Let me know. Down in the description, we have different ways to support the channel. Trying to grow our other channel Degenerate Plays, where we play through games. We played through a lot of superhero games over there. That's in the description. We have our own Fortnite code you can use to support our channel. And finally, we have our own store, cosmobunny.shop. This is my absolute favorite. We make coasters, keychains, trays, and more out of recycled paper from comics, manga, magazines, different things that have been damaged. We turn them into resin products transformatively through a different medium of art for your home, and we recycle the rest and make sure it doesn't actually end up in landfills. Also, we have our own Amazon affiliate link where you can buy different products. We have DC products there on a list, stuff like that. Goes to help support our channel, and we appreciate you very much. Hope you have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.